We get to break out of jail and fall in love with our best friend's wife. I think most country songs, the really good ones, are songs that tell stories about real things that happened. And I know everyone in this room has sung songs about real things that happened to them. We've also made up stories to sing about. Bill Anderson is 87 years old. People around the world know him as Whisperin Bill. He finds himself in a place where being successful and feeling sad often come together. It's like watching the end of a time period. I think our time is ending pretty fast right now. We've lost so many friends in the last few months and years. So many of our music heroes have died. People used to love his soft, quiet singing style that made him different and changed country music. Now he has to deal with getting old. His music career has lasted more than 60 years. He sang on the same stage as famous singers at the Grand Ole Opry. His songs became famous pieces of country music history. But as time passed, he had to carry heavy sadness. He watched almost all of his closest friends die. He struggles with getting older and feels lonely in a way that being famous can't fix. Behind the gentle voice that made him famous is a man who has seen both good times and hard times. He has pain that clapping and cheering has never been able to cover up. The question now is simple. What happened to Whisperin Bill? And why is life at 87 so hard for him? Anderson's story started far away from Nashville. He was born James William Anderson III in Columbia, South Carolina. He grew up in Decatur, Georgia. His first dreams weren't about being famous. He wanted to write songs. While other kids his age wanted to be famous singers, Bill believed that the most important part of country music was in the words of the songs. He started writing songs about everyday feelings like love, losing someone, faith, and hard times. His first big break came in 1958 when Ray Price recorded a song called City Lights. Anderson had written the song while working as a young radio DJ in Georgia. He never thought it would become the #1 song on the country music charts. That one song brought him to the attention of Nashville music people. Suddenly, he wasn't just a young man with a notebook full of songs. He was a songwriter that people wanted to work with. But he didn't stop there. Soon, he started singing his own songs. His voice was quieter and gentler than the loud voices that were popular at the time. His voice stood out right away. It felt personal, like he was telling secrets to each person listening. That special quality gave him the nickname Whisperin Bill. It became his signature sound for his whole life. By the 1960s, Anderson had become more than just another country music singer. He had become one of the most important voices in country music. With songs like Still, Pa, Folks, and Mama Sang a Song, he earned his place in music history. His song words spoke to regular people, soldiers, families, and dreamers. His quiet way of performing made audiences pay attention in a way that loud voices never could. But behind the image of Whisperin Bill, there were personal fights he had to deal with. Being famous brought stress, family problems, and broken relationships. What the world saw was a calm, soft-voiced star. What he actually lived was a life filled with both success and private struggles. For many musicians, performing on the Grand Ole Opry is the best thing that can happen in their career. For Anderson, it became his home. He was welcomed as a member in 1961. He has been one of its longest performing members for more than 60 years. His presence became impossible to separate from the Opry's identity. His songs were often filled with stories of faith and human experiences that touched the audience deeply. Whisperin Bill wasn't just a guest performer. He became part of the Opry family. During those years, he shared special moments with some of the biggest names in country music. Patsy Cline sang his words with her voice. Conway Twitty laughed with him backstage. And Loretta Lynn thought of him as a close friend. To Bill, those friendships mattered just as much as the music itself. The Opry was more than just a stage to perform on. It was a community, a bond of trust and friendship that lasted for many years. But time never stops moving. Slowly, his circle of friends got smaller. The music legends he once worked with were gone. The Opry that had once felt like family started to feel more empty as younger people stepped in to carry on the tradition. The audience still claps for him. The stage lights still shine on him. But behind the scenes, he feels sad about the people who used to stand by his side but aren't there anymore. Each time he performs, he feels proud but also sad. At 87, he continues to whisper into the microphone. But he also carries the weight of memories, reminders of a world that is disappearing around him. Away from the clapping crowds, his personal life has been just as challenging. Fans saw a smiling performer, but his private world was marked by difficulties. His first marriage to his college girlfriend eventually broke apart because of touring, fame, and the lifestyle that came with the music business. Even though they had children together, the problems grew too big, and they got divorced. His second marriage ended the same way. More heartbreak and more loss. The man who wrote so many songs about sadness and broken hearts ended up living those very same stories in his own life. The biggest challenges, though, didn't come from failed marriages but from losing people. Friends, band members, and other singers, one after another, were gone. Sickness, accidents, and just the normal passing of time left him more and more alone. He once said that living while so many of his closest friends had died felt more like a burden than a blessing. Even in moments when he was honored, like when he was put into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2001, there was sadness, knowing that many people weren't there to celebrate with him. As the years went by, the hard times never stopped. Bill faced health problems in his own family. He had heartbreak that no stage performance could heal. He felt lonely even when crowds still cheered for him. Whisperin Bill became known for giving comfort to others through his songs and making people feel less alone. But in his private life, the quiet time after the music ended often became too heavy to handle. Being famous could bring awards and recognition, but it could never replace what he had lost. Even with all the awards and people clapping for him, the battles Bill Anderson faces today are ones that most people never see. At 87, life itself feels like a daily test to see how much he can handle. While Whisperin Bill still performs, his body doesn't move as easily as it once did. Years of touring, long nights traveling, and just getting older have left him physically weaker. This forces him to slow down, even though his heart still loves music. Health problems, though he rarely talks about them openly, have followed him in his later years. His energy that used to seem endless now turns into being tired. Where he once spent hours with fans, shaking hands, signing autographs, and sharing stories, now even short appearances need careful planning and time to recover afterward. Behind his gentle smile, Bill carries quiet frustration from knowing that the body can fail the spirit, no matter how strong someone's will to keep going remains. Maybe the hardest struggle has been the loneliness that comes with being old. When the stage lights go dim and the crowd goes home, Bill often goes back to an empty room. The room isn't filled with the laughter of family or friends, but with memories. The silence can be overwhelming for a man who once loved being around fellow musicians. He used to draw inspiration from the noise of the Opry backstage halls and from nights of working together and friendship. The stillness of old age is a painful reminder of what has been lost. Emotional and mental struggles can sometimes be harder than physical ones. Even though he continues to write songs, the music industry has changed so much that Bill sometimes feels like a stranger in the very world he helped create. Younger singers often walk by without knowing about his influence on their music. Modern audiences can forget about the pioneers who made their success possible. For a man who spent his life telling stories through songs, the fear of being forgotten weighs heavily on him. But Bill almost never talks about these struggles out loud. He has carried himself with quiet dignity throughout his career. His whispering voice was never meant to shout for sympathy or attention. Instead, he puts his pain into his music, turning private battles into words that other people can hold on to. But even music has limits. As the years pass and his circle of friends get smaller, Bill Anderson continues to face these silent battles with a strength that few people will ever see. This leaves the world wondering how heavy the burden really is that Whisperin Bill carries in his final years. Maybe the hardest tragedy of Bill's later life has been the long list of names he has had to say goodbye to. For much of his career, the stage was filled with voices like Loretta Lynn, Patsy Cline, Conway Twitty, George Jones, and many others. They were not only fellow performers but friends who shared the same struggles, the same long nights on tour, and the same laughter backstage at the Opry. Those friendships gave Bill strength and joy. But as the years passed, one by one, those voices went silent. George Jones, his close friend and partner in making music, passed away in 2013. Loretta Lynn, part of the Opry family for so many years, died in 2022. Twitty died suddenly in the 1990s. And Patsy Cline, who once recorded Bill's songs, lost her life in a 1963 plane crash. Each death wasn't just the loss of a music legend. It was the loss of a part of Bill's own life story. Every funeral and every obituary left him standing a little more alone on a stage that once felt full of friends. In interviews, he has been open about the painful experience of living longer than nearly all of his friends from the music business. There's a loneliness that stays with a man when he realizes he has become one of the last voices of a time period that is now gone. The Opry stage that once echoed with familiar laughter can now feel like a hall of memories. And while Bill is honored as a living legend, he also carries the weight of survivors' grief. Even many of his closest songwriting partners are gone. Whisperin Bill, who once devoted himself to telling other people's stories, now has the responsibility of remembering the stories of his friends. He often shares their memories, keeping their legacies alive through tributes and stories about them. But each story comes with a price, reliving the pain of their absence over and over again. At 87, Bill is surrounded by younger performers who look up to him. But admiration can't replace the friendship of equals. He can give advice, share wisdom, and smile for photographs. But when the curtain falls, he knows the truth. The friends who once stood beside him are no longer there. Losing friends and colleagues is not just a reality of getting older. It's a burden that gets heavier each year. And while Bill meets it with dignity, it remains one of the deepest hardships of his later years. Despite his fame, Bill Anderson's later life has not been free from money problems and career challenges. To the outside world, he is a Hall of Fame member, an Opry icon, and one of the most recorded songwriters in history. But behind the scenes, the music business has never been kind to its legends. In the early Nashville days, the rights to publish songs and the money earned from them often slipped away from the very artists who wrote the hits. Bill, like many of his friends in music, sometimes saw only a small part of the money that his songs earned for other people. Even as artists like Connie Smith, George Strait, and Kenny Chesney turned his words into gold records, the money rewards for Bill were not always equal to what others made. Then came the streaming era, which made songwriting worth only pennies compared to the steady money payments of the past.